Getting back to some breaking news now, the Wall Street Journal reporting that Qualcomm approached Intel about a takeover. That report, though, doesn't have any more details than that in terms of a proposed price tag. It, of course, cautions a deal might not get done. But joining us now to help discuss and understand this story is Corey Johnson, the Futurum Group Chief Market Strategist. Corey, we just saw you yesterday. We had to bring you back today because of the magnitude of something like this. As we were talking about earlier, Intel's current market cap, even after all its declines, it's still a very large company, about $87 billion in market cap. Qualcomm, $190 billion in market cap. We've talked about that there would undoubtedly be a lot of sort of regulatory scrutiny of something like this. What do you think of this report?
It's really interesting and really exciting. This would be the biggest deal in the history of the semiconductor industry ever. It also, so right there, full stop. Intel was once the largest semiconductor company in the world. It is no longer. And Intel's struggles are really amazing. I mean, this company had an operating loss last quarter of $2 billion. So they are in a world of hurt and trying to figure out what's going on with their business. They are still very much wedded to selling chips into PCs because their business of selling chips into the data center has just not worked out. They've missed so many product cycles with NVIDIA cleaning their clocks in the data center, and that shows no sign of any immediate change. Now, they announced a really big deal, a multi-billion-dollar deal with Amazon this week, that gives them hope that maybe they're going to be able to get some of their semiconductor manufacturing business into a better place as they build out facilities all around the world, especially in the U.S. But when you think about these companies, you've got to think about Intel having things that Qualcomm really doesn't have. It's got manufacturing prowess. It's got a place in data centers and in PCs. Qualcomm has some plans around PCs, but Qualcomm is largely a smartphone company. Most of their business is making chips for smartphones. They've got an IoT unit that's shrinking. They've got an automotive unit that's also not doing great guns right now. But I think 73% of revenues last quarter were in smartphones. And so that is somewhat Intel's famously missed out on for decades now. And it would be an interesting combined company that would have this strength in manufacturing from Intel, in PCs from Intel, maybe data center at some point for Intel, and then smartphones from Qualcomm. It's also interesting because Qualcomm historically has not made their own chips. They and owned a lot of facilities to make those chips. So it would be a change in philosophy, or they're a spinoff potential here. So it's a really fascinating notion.
Corey, how do you think regulators in D.C. would react to this idea?
So I think that there's we certainly have got a very strong antitrust regime right now in Washington, and opinion. I think it's a good thing. We don't want monopolies. Monopolies hurt innovation. They hurt small companies trying to change the world, make the world a better place. But we really need a strong chip industry in this country to fight against the risk of the concentration we have in Taiwan. And so something that would help Intel survive and do better, which this merger might be seen as, might be welcomed by Washington. So I don't think that this is instantly the kind of thing, because they're in different markets and because we want both of these companies to do well, it is in our national security interest for that to be the case. I think this would have a shot.
It's interesting because if you look at the stock reaction for these two companies, yes, you saw sort of a rapid reaction here, but it's not. I'm going to just put my little armchair, analysis hat on. At the close, Intel was up 3.3%. That to me does not say people said absolutely this deal is getting done. And so I guess and again, this was a very preliminary report. Do other suitors come out of the woodwork and offer to buy Intel too?
Right.
What do you think happens next?
Well, what does Broadcom do, right? We know how much Hock Tan likes to gobble up companies, having just done that massive deal with VMware. But I think that, like I said, this is a really interesting potential combination here. But the value of Intel, if it's on sale now, it might be on sale more after next quarter. I mean, Intel's got issues, and you're buying a whole heap of troubles if you buy Intel, whether you're buying the stock or Qualcomm buying the whole company. Now, it's a consultant's dream, right, to be able to walk into Intel and try to fix this business and make it work. Intel also has a really unique culture. And one of the facets of that culture is people have worked there forever. I remember visiting a factory or a fab up in Hillsboro, Oregon, and the person was bringing me around, had worked at the company for 15 years, and she told me that she was considered the new girl. And that told me a lot. It told me not just that 15 years is a short tenure at Intel, the fact that she would be referred to as a girl, and that this sort of stultified culture of Intel is still very much a part of Intel. And it's not as simple as looking at what's on the balance sheet and seeing that that's what you're going to acquire, or looking at the customer list and seeing that's what you're going to acquire. There's also a really unique Intel culture that is still there. And I think that that's another reason why a deal like this would be hard to integrate, but again, a fascinating concept.
Corey, you look at this, this stock. I mean, Intel has just been smashed. It's down about 60% this year. I'm just curious to get your take. You think about Pat Gelsinger, and in Gelsinger's defense, listen, he always said it when he first came on board. He laid out this strategy, and it was going to take years to play out. He was clear about that. I'm just curious. You know the company. You think about the landscape. I mean, what do you make of Gelsinger's job as CEO?
Yeah.
What do you make of his strategy?
And I also have a fond place in my heart for the company. I really care about this company. I think because of that culture, because of so many people I've known there over the years that work there, and I want the company to succeed. But Gelsinger has been through a number of plans over his tenure at Intel. He was a brilliant designer at this company. He left to go to VMware, of course, and then came back to Intel famously. But these guys got to move fast. They got to change a lot. But designing semiconductors and changes, Intel usually moves in a not a glacial pace, but the kinds of decisions they make take a decade to play out. The building of a fab can take 8 to 10 years and billions of dollars. So it's not the kind of business you can turn on a dime, despite the best McKinsey consultants out there that might want to see that happen.
Corey, thanks so much for hopping on. Really appreciate it.
Glad I could do it.